Happy Sabbath, kids, and welcome to our new series. Last Sabbath, Auntie Jung told us about the 10 rules. Those were the 10 commandments. Oh, dark clouds is settling in the sky, and I think we shall have rain in a few minutes. I don't like the sound of thunder and rain and this lightning flash. These sounds are just terrifying. Oh, I think God is gone. What would you have wondered? What if instead, if this rumbling noise, the thunder, should utter words which you could possibly understand? Would you not listen attentively and hear what they say? And suppose you knew that it was the voice of the great God who made the heavens and the earth and the sun, moon, and stars. Would you not listen and would not be alarmed? You might try to run away and hide for fear of God, right? But if you knew what He spoke were rules to direct you in everything that you do, that you would become happy and good, would you not listen to them and try to remember them? When God came down from Mount Sinai, it was wrapped in the clouds with much lightnings and flashings and thunders and roaring and the trumpet sounding long and loud. God told Moses to come up with his 2 flat stones, which were hewn out and smoothened out. And God not only uttered His law, but He wrote it in those stones with His own finger. He wrote it not only for Moses and for the Israelites, but for you and me, so that when Jesus comes, we will be judged by His law. Of the 10 rules of the 10 commandments, the first 4 teach of our duty to God, and the other 6 are our duty to each other, to man. The first commandment says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," and that is our memory verse. "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." And this reminds me of one afternoon when we were by the lakeside and I overheard my kids were talking about God. Let's listen to them.
Ate, have you ever wondered how many gods are there?
What? Why? There is only one God, for God fills every place and there is no room for any more.
Wow, He must be a very big God. How come? Mommy said God can be in my heart.
Well, that's it. God fills every space in heaven and earth, including your heart, Gab.
Yes, kids. God is in every place and sees you and me, and He is so great that He fills the heavens and the earth, and He dwells in each of our hearts and each of your little hearts. All He asks of us is to acknowledge Him, that He is our God, and He tells us not to have other gods before Him. And I suppose you agree with me that God is the only true God and we ought to worship Him. Many years ago, when the people lived near Israel prayed to false gods. On the east were the Philistines, whose false god was Dagon, and they asked him to have good harvest, to help them catch many fish, and they would have lots of money. On the north lived the Phoenicians, who worshiped Ashtoreth, and they asked him to give children, more babies to their animals, and they worshiped him by eating and drinking. To the east side were the Moabites, and their false god was called Molech. And they had to burn their children to make him happy, and the people did this because they wanted Molech to use his power to protect them. Today, things have changed. God's people today are still surrounded with many gods, and this may not be like the gods of the Moabites and the Philistines, made of wood and stones or metal. However, millions worship other gods in a different way. Yes, millions worship money, power, and love for other things, just as they were gods. Some people even forget to go to church just to earn something and to get the things they desire in life. And you can see this by looking at the magazines, the books. You can see in the covers what people want today, and these are the false gods that people worship. Whatever things you and I love most other than God can be our gods. Some boys and girls love kites, dogs, marbles, dolls more than God, and they would rather play with them for hours with their toys rather than serve and worship God and learn about Him. When God is first, we will refuse everything that makes God less important to us. We refuse everything that does not make Him ruler in our lives. So if we put God first, then it will be easy for us to make the difference, to know the difference between right and wrong, between good and bad video, between good and bad games, good and bad habits, between good and bad clothing to wear, good and bad friendship. We will refuse everything that can hurt our relationship with God. And when we live this way, God's way, then our lives will be light and bright, and we will have peace and hope and joy instead of fighting and despair. This is the kind of spiritual living that Jesus wants us to have, because those who do not love God here on this earth will have no part in heaven. So whatever we love most is our God, and may we put Him first and not let Him and have Him the best part in our hearts. So kids, may we never have any other gods and no other gods than the true God in heaven. And that is the first commandment. Stay tuned next Sabbath. See you next time.